That's certainly a very difficult act to follow. Thank you very much to those of you who invited me here, and I'm delighted to be here, Mr. Minister, and all of the other dignitaries that are here to join us, and fellow students, friends. I've been on the road for the last 6 weeks, visiting Latin America, the Caribbean, visiting the amazing things that men and women, such as many of you sitting in this room, are doing, social entrepreneurs. But one of the questions that I'm most frequently asked is whether that you can actually teach a person to be a social entrepreneur, or is it that some people are just born that way? Well, the answer is both. Let me show you what I mean, and I hope you'll join me in this exercise. How many of you sitting here in this room all over have at any point in your lives ever had an idea for doing something, starting something, or improving something that already exists? Raise your hand. Just about everybody here has had an idea. Now, how many of those who raised their hands actually tried to get the idea implemented? A little bit fewer. How many of you are still working at getting that idea implemented? All right, all right. As you can see from the show of hands, or at least as I can see from where I am, ideas are very plentiful. The capacity to imagine is one of the wonderful characteristics of all human beings. But far fewer actually try to implement that idea, and even less actually persist in front of setbacks. After working with social entrepreneurs intensely for many years all over the world, I am convinced that they are born that way. Their traits are wired into their DNA. And those traits include creativity, single-mindedness, drive, and even stubbornness, a determination to keep going in the face of setbacks. But whether those entrepreneurial talents will be deployed for the good of society is very much based on the context in which he or she develops. Societies which foster innovation, a little bit of disobedience, individual achievement, empathy, and allow for setbacks will benefit enormously from their entrepreneurial talent pool. And those that do not will discourage citizens from undertaking creative approaches that open up new opportunities for economic and social development. So in my presentation today, I'd like to do 3 things. I'd first like to describe the nature of social entrepreneurship, drawing on a few examples of the most accomplished among them. Second, I'd like to describe the kinds of organizational expressions that social entrepreneurs set up. And third, I'd like to provoke some reflection about what makes social entrepreneurs different from foundations, NGOs, companies, and why there is a critical need to understand how to respond to these differences so we can benefit from their innovations. In that section, I'm going to specifically focus on the role of foundations and philanthropy in supporting social entrepreneurs. Thank you. Thanks very much. I promise I'm not going to be here all day. That's not why I asked for the water. So what is a social entrepreneur? Almost 5 years ago, when we started the Schwab Foundation's activities, the term social entrepreneurship was familiar to very few around the world. While today, social entrepreneurship is hardly a household term, in the past few years, its use has had a meteoric rise, and one that, in my view, should be considered with cautious triumph. Click on Google, and you will find 4.7 million entries for social entrepreneurship and 2.9 million for social entrepreneurs. Now, why do I say that we should look at this with cautious optimism? Well, a short time ago, to describe why, I was at an international, very big international conference, twice as big as this one, actually, in San Francisco. And everyone at that meeting who was not a funder was now calling him or herself a social entrepreneur. But in closer actually looking at them and conversation with them, it was evident that they were not social entrepreneurs. They seemed to be wonderfully decent folks running charities or NGOs that were doing good things for unfortunate people. And that is truly wonderful. But they were not social entrepreneurs. In our experience at the Schwab Foundation, social entrepreneurs are a very rare breed indeed. We must nurture and care for them. That's not to say that all of us don't have some entrepreneurial qualities to a greater or to a lesser degree, but that continuous energy to imagine, to innovate, to implement, to measure, to improve on innovation, to scale up, to diversify, to defy the usual, to break the pattern, move in a new direction, create new organizational arrangements, that exhausting and exhilarating quality of what makes a social entrepreneur, there are not too many of those folks around. So, to give you a theoretical definition of social entrepreneurship, it's about seizing opportunities to innovate and create systemic social change that is sustainable, without regard for the resources presently at hand. The key concepts are innovation and social change. And as importantly, social entrepreneurs commit first, and then they find the way to make it happen. There is nothing better than examples, of course, to provide you with the full understanding of the nature of social entrepreneurship. And as you will readily see, social entrepreneurs are not interested in organizing the problem through palliative and short-term approaches. They are about transforming the system. They've built their business models around sustainability rather than including sustainability as an afterthought. They are excellent examples that demonstrate how blended value actually is achieved and how sustainable social change can occur. Take Jim Fruchterman, who founded Benetech in 1989 in Silicon Valley. Jim likes to joke that Benetech is a, quote, high-tech nonprofit on purpose, as opposed to all those high-tech for-profits that died with the dot-com boom bust and became not-for-profits by accident. Benetech is a not-for-profit venture capital model that fosters and finances the development of technological initiatives which would not otherwise be taken up by the for-profit software developers due to their low market returns, mainly because the populations Jim is serving are the disabled.